Good afternoon, Scott Redler, T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. It is Thursday, it is September 11th. Very somber day. You know, you look back 13 years ago, everyone definitely experienced different things throughout the course of that day. People lost loved ones, they had mayhem themselves. I know I was in the city when it happened, and I saw the second plane go over my head, and the flames came out, and then I lived in the city and watched all the emergency trucks and had friends pass away and this and that. And, it's just, unfortunately, it feels like a lot of people forget as every year goes by. It's like water under the bridge, but you really, it's just, for me, it's not water under the bridge. So whatever. A little tired today, a little out of it. It happens. For you, if you're dealing with some emotional, situations or backlash from what took place, I hope you didn't have such a bad day. But what you could take from it is that you have to have, glass half full. Things could get taken away very easily, so you might as well enjoy what you have, not look at what you could have, and not look what you might have wanted, and just enjoy yourself and take care of the loved ones around you. So anyway, that's my sermon about 9/11. Sorry for babbling. It is what it is. As far as the market's concerned, we came in today, futures down 6-7 handles. Talked about what was going to happen at yesterday's lows, and a lot of the major indices. Do we hold and continue to build new support to potentially jump off of, or do we retrace further? And after choppy action and lethargic action in a lot of spots, but there was also some good action. Ultimately, we held yesterday's low, and there was opportunity, a lot of active day trades from red to green, and then a little follow through. But again, with the ranges that happen throughout the day, if you're in the wrong stocks and you add one too many times, and it definitely could be a little complicated. So I'm just going to start running through things. S&P, SPX, look right here. Overall, you look at the prior high here, right? This prior high here was 1991. We dipped a little bit below it, but all in all, we held the 21-day. So if you want to take a real close-up here, because I know with my eyes I'm getting old and can't really see that well, this is when we sort of broke the 21-day, and that's when I started to reduce a decent amount of risk. And then yesterday you had your red dog reversal. And if you just played the red dog reversal and got long at 1984, put your stop at 1982 and didn't touch your keyboard, you're still in there. You're doing just fine. If you sell some and you trade some and said, I'm going to buy versus this, here you go, another green candle. And overall, you have this range here that we've been now pretty much maneuvering since it broke above, and it broke above on August 21st, so multiple weeks. So we'll see what's next. As of right now, things are still hanging around. And all I know is if you complained about the speed of this move, once we resolved this lower wedge to the upside after showing digestion and had a very big momentum fast move, and you're complaining about the sideways move, you know what you should stop doing? You know what? Stop complaining. Learn, evolve, take what you can get, make moves, have quick feet. Anyway, go through some sectors, look at the Qs real quick. Nice tight range, some engulfing bars. Definitely a little wishy-washy, hard to trust, but still hugging the 8-day, still above the 21-day. Nice overall digestion. People are saying, oh, we're topping, we're getting ready to roll over. But meanwhile, if you can't pull in at this upper level after a really nice move like we saw from the August lows, and a really nice move since we broke above the May wedge right here and resolved the right shoulder, this looks more constructive than bearish. I guess for you bears out there who say one day we're going to get sideswiped and we're never going to look back, well, if you anticipate for that the way you've been anticipating for that during this entire trend, you probably blew yourself out of the water unless all you do is trade ink. But we trade real money over here. Okay, let's go to the Russell. Turned up pretty well today. Okay, red dog reversal right here into the 50-day. Turned up and then even took out yesterday's highs. So it's showing you that it's still in the game. Little wishy-washy. Yes, could it have come down to 114? Could it have come down further? It could have, but it didn't. It traded below 115, put a low in yesterday, 114.71. If you did the same thing and bought here and said, I am not going to touch it unless it breaks when I stop, you're still in there and still chilling. So that's that. So let's start running through some stocks, some things that we've been watching, some things we've been following. Apple, looked as if it needed to digest. We talked about it holding 99 30-ish for commitment, and overall, that's what it did. Drew this morning. Oh, look at this. This is still from the morning call. Anyway, this was the trend that it broke above, held it today, closed well, looking pretty healthy. Okay, got rid of this loose wide day, and still, I don't know somebody must have had a liquid lunch and drew this trend line. Not me, maybe. This is the trend line here. But anyway, above this, as long as we stay above this, I think it's constructive, and this should not be a problem. We have to deal with orders from the weekend. They go on sale tomorrow. I will be ordering my iPhone 6 Plus mañana. Other things, a little wishy-washy. Go into Facebook, still hanging around, lots of intraday movement, but overall, above the 21-day, triggered here, one day red, one day green. I talked about in the morning call, maybe it goes green, especially if Twitter does, and it did, and it looks good, and at some point this should be over 80 plus. Twitter also, could have been worse. Went green if you had it overnight, not knowing there was a secondary or a debt offering, whatever. It's been moving really well ever since it broke above this. You could have even bought the dip as it held the gap after earnings, and today gave you a way in and also pushed a little bit. Just if you added at the wrong time, maybe you got frustrated, but still overall, stay with it as long as it stays above the 8-day. WB, finally, look at this move. Woo! I know lots of times I've tried this thing. I have a chart on the Twitter feed about it. I might have tried it right here, and it failed. Look at that. Might have tried it right here, and it failed. Then finally pushed above and stayed above, and look at that. So what did I do this time different from here and here? This time I said, you know what, it looks ready. I am not just going to have stock, I'm going to buy some options. And if you get the Redler All Access, you would have seen starting right around here, I bought the October 22s. And with that being said, I think I bought them at 75 cents and I sold some today at $3. So right there, nice trade. I also bought some at 22.20 and I sold some, made some money trading the stock. I could have probably traded it better, but whatever. And at this point, huge move, and now we'll see what's next. But overall, Twitter's been strong, social media's been strong. This is the Twitter of China, and he finally had a nice sustainable move. That's why we look at tight patterns, and we don't let it wear you out, because it wears everyone out, and then it goes, and then you're upset if you got worn out. So don't get worn out. One way of not getting worn out is having some options and go out a month, so if it happens, you're involved if you miss the intraday action. Got to give it to a few guys on the site. I don't know who called it out, but I know this doesn't mean much, but somebody's like, oh, Red Dog, look, big calls in the 47.5s going off. So yesterday on the virtual trading floor, if you're a virtual trade floor member, I bought the 47.5 options, and this was a pleasant surprise. Somebody, I guess, always knows something in the option land. It's the blueprint of money, and so I bought it yesterday on this day. Sold some today. I think it was also up 100%. I guess these options are starting to get fun, and I've held some. It's still in the VTF, and overall, the stock's been out of play. It's been a horrendous scenario, but at this point, pricing and timing is key, and someone else's trash could be your treasure if you time it right. And that's what we try and do. We try and time it. We'll see what happens next. Not saying it's going to be a blockbuster move, but maybe it extends. Here is a decent day one after a nice reversal. So we'll see what is next. Pretty powerful and some decent volume. The banks. Yesterday I bought Bank of America. Talked about it being one of the better patterns out there. Actually, I bought it on this day and got out here, then bought it back here, and I'm still in it for that. So the old Red Dog might have said, you know what, the stock got me. I can't believe it happened. I was in on this day when Goldman upgraded it after this bottom tail into the 21-day, got out here because I was just fed up. And I would have just not been involved. But instead, I bought it back, added to it this morning while it was negative, and then it had a nice move. And it still looks like it has room. Also, in some Morgan Stanley, it's held the 21-day, and it's on its way back up. Pretty clean move. We'll see what happens here. It looks like it can go. Also had some Citigroup. I did not take home Citigroup, but it looks just like Morgan Stanley. I guess you don't need to be in everything, but these things have not cleared their upper pivot the way Bank of America did. Already, so maybe this is leading the way again. The last real nice move is right here when it ignited on the settlement talk, and when we had a play right here when this gap held over there. So lots of patterns going on. What's Netflix doing? Netflix is just chilling. Maybe one day we'll get that move above this. Hasn't happened yet. We'll see what's next. You know, not every time you're going to get a clean move like this or a clean move like this. And at some point after everyone gets worn out, maybe you get that nice move above 490. We'll see. Tesla also gave you a nice red to green move, but it just stalled. Okay, this was your bottom tail yesterday. It opened negative, went negative to positive. And sometimes you have to take the trade. You're not always going to get a huge move to new highs, especially when Elon Musk says, my stock's a little overvalued, so you have to take what you can get. Especially don't add on strength. So anyway, you know, when you're in a choppy type tape and things are trying to figure itself out, you got to be more careful. You got to take the trade that works 8 out of 10 times, not the trade that works 2 out of 10 times. And in order for a trade to go and have momentum and continue on closing the highs, it's got to be a very specific situation. Look how many times WB tried it. It tried it so many damn times, and finally, it happened. So with Tesla, it's not always going to happen. Okay, so that's why you got to be careful and you got to take trades and know what you can handle. Today I tried it with Loco. Loco did not work again. Okay, I think I lost money in Loco today. I came in long it, added because I thought maybe this was the day, and it wasn't the day. It didn't happen. Let's see what the volume looked like today. Let's go to basic studies. We'll go to volume. Okay. I guess not enough volume today for it to happen. Last time it broke out right here, look at the size of the volume. But anyway, looked like it can go, smelled like it can go, and it didn't go. But it's still in there, it's still hovering. I'm not going to lose sight of it. I'm not going to say, oh my goodness, I added today. I had too much size today and it didn't work. Next time it goes, maybe we'll get a little bit more, reward. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, who knows. But I guess as long as it's above the 8-day, try and stay in some. Just don't overtrade it. G Pro looks like it could use a rest. First, red bar doesn't mean go balls to the wall short, but after a move from this breakout, I would be very careful buying it. Let's see if we can get a move closer to here. Talked about fading the strength in Mobileye, and it wound up giving you that day. Still consolidating after a big move from here and even from down here. So I would say back off, let it reset up and figure itself out before you start over trading this. I do not think this is the high of the year, but you need to give this some time. I know Sperlin's been playing some of these thinner stocks, which, just so you know, thin stocks are thin and they're hard. If you trade volume in thin stocks, sometimes there aren't ways out. If you look at them and you don't realize where they came from, it could be painful, and it takes an art to doing so. So you look at this DLGY and you will see, Mark was a little upset because it didn't have traction on the upgrade. I'm like, Mark, do you realize that in August this stock was $5, and then it finally broke above $10 on what day was this? This was August 25th. So not even in a month. I know it did hit as high as 35, but within 1 month, it almost tripled. So if you were buying a pullback into the 8-day, you gotta be a little careful. And if there's no liquidity in stuff like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Yelp and Apple and this and that, there's probably not gonna be so much liquidity here. So if you're trading thin stocks that have come a long way and you think you're buying a dip, be careful. One dip could be a bigger dip. So that's all I'm saying. You gotta know what stock you're involved in. And this one, to me, has come a long way. I know it's in the group. It's in the camera group. Anything with the camera, a week ago was just going nuts, and now has pulled in. Same thing for this INSN, whatever this thing is, or ISNS. Let's see what this thing is. Look at that. It was a nothing. Nothing, ignited on volume, went as high as 10. So could it be a trade here into 5 because it came in 50%? Maybe, but just realize this thing was less than $3. And granted, if you didn't chase it into 10 or you had it when it crossed 475 and sold it into that, you do have the luxury of potentially finding another trade, because there might be another trade here, but just you got to be a little bit more careful. The market is thin and it's hard to get stocks like Netflix, so you got to think it's going to be hard to buy some of these thinner stocks, but who knows? Sometimes they continue and sometimes they have longer lives, but you just got to know what you're doing, okay, and why you're doing it, and know your risk and know your share size and know the liquidity factors. Gold. What do you say about gold? Back in You know, I was thinking about Mark Haynes today because he did a great job going over, you know, what happened on September 11th that day, because he didn't know what was going on and he told it like it is. If you remember, let's just go back a little down memory hill. I was on Squawk Box with him right here. And what was this? Actually, no, I think I was right here. Somewhere around here. Anyway, actually it was right in here, where you had this reverse head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, huge neckline. We were breaking above 850, and I said, hey, Mark, I got a gold bold call. I think we go to 1,500 over the next few years. And he's like, ah, ha, 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 ha. So just for the quick story, so come back to me. That was when I was on probably once a week, you know, with Erin and Mark on Squawk on the Street. That was my little crew. You know, I was telling them all about technical analysis before anyone really knew about technical analysis. And I said, I have a bold gold call, with gold bold call, whatever it was, and you could Google that video, and it happened. But that day on Street Signs, Erin goes to Dennis Gartman, you know, the commodity king, and says, hey, Dennis, Scott Redler was on with me today, and he's been on for a lot of times, probably 30, and it's pretty good. He says gold's going to 1,500 in the next year or two. And Dennis goes first and goes, who the hell is Scott Redler? Funny. Which I was, you know, I'm still, who the hell is Scott Redler? But, and he said, if he doesn't believe in the American way of life, he'll probably be right. So at that point, nobody believed in it, but technically, it looked like a great setup. You go back to the chart of gold, and you will see that here was that wedge type pattern right there. Here was your inverse head and shoulders pattern. First move was from like 800, from 1,000 to 1,200, pulled in, and then it went all the way to here. And then the funny thing happened technically again. Okay, you then had another wedge type pattern and a trend line that met right there, smack in the middle, right around 160. It broke, you get out. Then you had a macro pattern that was trading sideways for a long time. I remember I was short this for this. This was a great trade, broke 1,500, 150, boom. And now, it's looking pretty darn wishy-washy again. Not saying it's going to break this key level and continue down, but you take a closer look here, and I don't know. It looks kind of, let's go back to the daily chart. Looks like lower prices to be had. This was your last wedge pattern in gold. It was right here. Somewhat when it broke below this 124-ish. Now it's below the moving averages. You have a little bottom tail here into 119 below the prior low, so it triggered some stops. It's oversold, but overall, lots of ways to look at gold technically versus with opinions. Some think gold is an inflation hedge. Some think gold, Andrew, is something that you should own if the end of the world happens. If the end of the world happens, you probably don't need it because you're dead. If there's anarchy, I think I'd rather have a six-pack of Sam Adams and a pizza versus a bar of gold. And I don't know if I had a six-pack and a pizza pie, I would trade it for a bar of gold, you know, because it's not really so comfortable to sleep on. But anyway, you know, right now psychologically, I don't think gold is something that people like. Technically, it's been broken, and I think you should stay away until we see something different. Today, small reversal pattern. If you were short, you cover some short term, and we'll see what's next. TLTs. You know, we talked about the what's it called, the island top. You know, you never know when a trend's going to change, and right here, everyone was just whistling along, and you had your little 2-day move extended from the moving average. So usually we try and sell things anyway when they're extended, and then you had boom, you know, the island top, which has been controlling the trade. And now you take a closer look here. This is your out, because you always get out when you get some kind of thing that you did not anticipate, like a landmine. Sometimes if 10 people stand on a landmine, if you get rid of it or get away from it quickly, maybe you lose a limb versus, you know, blowing up. And if you didn't, you've had to sit in this. And it still looks pretty darn negative. Didn't hold the 50-day. Could hit the 113.76. And if you have a thesis is only good if you could stay liquid enough to stay with it, unless you're using ink, which we don't use here. We don't trade on simulators. We trade real money. But anyway, so that's that. It's Thursday, you know, September 11th. Very tough day every year. Doesn't make it easier. My friend Josh Vitale, you might have heard his name. He actually lit a candle at my bar mitzvah, and we did a lip sync contest together. I have a picture of it. He was killed in the attack. Pledge brother, his father, another guy in a different fraternity that was a year older that I went to school like this. So many stories. And, it could happen again. So you can never let your guard down. And let's hope the president who made his speech last night is serious and stands by his word and makes some progress. And I know we don't have to solve the world's problems, but if you let it just come knock on your door instead of being proactive, they can knock down the door. And tomorrow, no morning call. You'll have my morning note, and I wish you the best of luck. And it's Thursday. It's still September. You got football. You got a lot of things going on. Enjoy yourself, because again, life is too short and can be taken away too easily. Glass half full. That's how I like to live. Have a good night.